You think you know someone. You sit at their dinner table. You welcome them into your family. You laugh at their jokes. You believe the kindness in their voice is real. But one day, something small changes. A glance, a tone, a word. And you feel it. That cold shift in the air. That slow turn of the heart. It happened to me. My name is Elaine Carter. I am 61 years old, and I was called just a retiree by someone I once trusted. But this is not a story about anger. This is a story about truth, about dignity, about quiet strength, and how sometimes the best way to teach someone respect is to simply say no. Before we jump back in, tell us where you are tuning in from. And if this story touches your heart, please subscribe, because tomorrow I have saved something truly special just for you. My name is Elaine Carter. I am 61 years old, and I live alone in a small but warm house on the edge of a quiet town. Every morning, I wake up before the sun, sit by the window with my tea, and watch the light rise over the trees. I like the silence. I like the peace. Some people think silence means loneliness. For me, it means I have finally found space to breathe. I used to be a school librarian. 35 years of stories, children's laughter, quiet pages turning. I retired 3 years ago. Since then, my life has slowed down in a gentle way. I go to the market every Thursday. I visit the same cafe every Saturday. I keep my garden neat. My roses are the best on the block. Or at least, that is what Mrs. Doyle next door tells me. And I have decided to believe her. My daughter, Anna, is 35. She lives about 30 minutes away with her husband, Greg, and their 2 children, Ella and Ben. They are good children, kind and funny. I try to see them once a week, sometimes more. They bring energy into my calm world, and I love them more than I can say. Anna visits often. She still calls me Mama, like she did when she was little. She worries about me sometimes. She thinks I should join more clubs, travel more, meet new people. But I like my rhythm. I have done my rushing. I have done my worrying. Now, I just want to live quietly, with no noise in my chest. Greg, my son-in-law, is polite, but distant. He works in finance and talks a lot about numbers and meetings. I do not always understand what he says, but I smile and nod. I bake for them, often. Apple pies, banana bread, sometimes chicken casserole if I have the time. Greg never says much about the food, but I do not mind. I am not cooking for thanks. I am cooking because it makes me feel useful. Sometimes when they visit, I sit back and just listen. Anna laughs loudly. Greg checks his phone. The children run in and out of the garden, and I sit in my chair, hands wrapped around my mug, just watching. I feel proud. I feel like I did something right. I built a home. I raised a daughter. I helped grow a family. But there is something quiet that sits inside me, something I do not say out loud. It is not sadness. It is not anger. It is just a small question. What am I now? I do not mean that in a dramatic way. I know who I am. I know my name, my past, my place in this house. But sometimes, when everyone leaves and the door closes behind them, I feel invisible. Not in a painful way. More like a book on the shelf no one is reading anymore. I try not to think like that. I keep busy. I write lists. I organize the kitchen. I call old friends. Most of them are grandmothers now, too. We talk about the weather, about the price of bread, about the old days. We laugh. We remember. And then we hang up, and the silence returns. There is one thing I have never told my family. I have a small savings account. A large one, actually. Years ago, when I inherited a bit of money from my aunt, I did not spend it. I invested it slowly, carefully. I learned. I listened. I asked questions at the bank, even when I felt embarrassed, and over time, it grew. I never told Anna or Greg because, well, I did not think it mattered. They have their own lives, their own plans. Besides, I liked having something that was just mine. Sometimes I wonder if they see me as a full person, or just as a kind figure in the corner, always ready with cookies and advice. I do not blame them. Life moves fast when you are young. You do not stop to look behind you. But I am still here. I am still watching. I am still feeling everything. At night, I lie in bed and listen to the wind through the trees. I think about the past. I think about the future. I do not want much. Just honesty. Just respect. Just to be seen. Everything felt steady, like a soft line drawn in the sand. But something was about to change. Something small, something strange. And once it started, I would not be able to go back. The first time I noticed it, it was a Sunday afternoon. The sun was warm, and the children were running through the sprinkler in the garden. Their laughter filled the air. Anna was sitting on the steps, her hair pulled back, sipping lemonade. I had made roast chicken with rosemary potatoes and my usual green bean salad. The table was set outside, under the big umbrella, just like we always did in spring. Greg arrived late. He stepped into the garden wearing sunglasses and holding his phone in one hand. He barely looked at me. He said, "Hey," and gave me a quick nod before walking over to Anna. She smiled up at him and stood to kiss his cheek. I stayed quiet. I told myself he must be busy, distracted, tired. He worked a lot after all. That was not new. But something about the way he moved felt different. He did not greet the children. He did not compliment the food. He just sat down and scrolled through his phone, one elbow resting on the table. I served him a plate anyway. I always do. After we ate, Anna offered to help me bring the dishes inside. I smiled and waved her off. "You stay. Enjoy the sunshine. I will be back in a minute." In the kitchen, I rinsed the plates and stared out the window. I could see them laughing outside. Anna and Greg, sitting close, her hand resting on his arm. I felt something small shift inside me. I could not name it. It was not jealousy. It was not sadness. It was something else. When I returned to the garden, Greg was on the phone again. His voice was louder than before. Yes, I know," he said. "I will call him back tomorrow. No, she will not mind. She is retired. She has time." He did not lower his voice. I stood there, holding the pitcher of lemonade, my feet frozen in place. She is retired. She has time. He had said it so carelessly, like I was a blank space in the background. He saw me and gave a small laugh. "Sorry," he said. "Just work stuff." I nodded, but something inside me felt different. Not broken, not angry, just awake. That evening, after they left, I cleaned the patio slowly. I picked up napkins the wind had tossed onto the grass. I folded the chairs. I wiped the table. My hands moved like they always did, but my heart felt heavier. I sat down with a cup of chamomile tea and stared at the empty garden. The laughter was gone. The light was fading. And I could not stop hearing those words in my head. She is retired. She has time. I had given so much to this family. Time, food, love, support. I had never asked for anything in return. But in that moment, I wondered if that had been a mistake. Not the giving, but the silence. Maybe I had made it too easy to ignore me. The next morning I got up early. I opened the windows and let in the cool air. I fed the birds. I watered the garden. Everything looked the same, but it did not feel the same. I sat with my journal and tried to write. I wrote 3 words. Something feels strange. I could not explain it fully, not even to myself. But I could feel it, like a thread had been pulled loose, like something small was beginning to unravel. Later that week, Anna called and asked if I could babysit on Friday. Of course, I said. I always did. But as soon as I hung up, I felt a new question rise inside me. Why do they only call when they need something? I shook my head. That was not fair. Anna loved me. The children loved me. Even Greg. Well, maybe he just did not know how to show it. Or maybe he was under pressure. People change when they are stressed. Still, I could not shake the feeling. Something small had shifted. Something was no longer the same. And as I stood at the sink, washing the last glass from Sunday's lunch, I whispered to myself, I can feel something changing. It started with small things. A missed thank you, a strange look across the room, a change in tone, things most people might not even notice. But I did, because I have spent my whole life paying attention. That is what mothers do. That is what women like me do. We notice when the air in a room shifts, even before anyone says a word. That Friday, I went over to Anna's house to watch the children. I arrived at 10 in the morning, like she had asked. The house was quiet, and the children were still in their pajamas. Anna was rushing around, gathering papers and stuffing them into her bag. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "Thank you, Mama. I owe you one." Then she grabbed her coat and was gone. I sat down with Ella and Ben and helped them finish their breakfast. We laughed, we played, we built towers with blocks and knocked them over. For a while, I forgot everything else. I was just Grandma again. The safe place, the storyteller, the one who always had snacks and soft hugs. But later, when the children were napping, I walked into the kitchen to tidy up. That is when I saw the folder on the table. It was open slightly. Inside were papers about a business loan. Greg's name was at the top. Something about a restaurant investment. A large sum. I did not read much. I closed it quickly and pushed it aside. I do not like snooping. But my heart was already racing. I had no idea he was trying to start something new. They had never mentioned it to me. That evening, Anna came home first. She seemed tired but happy. Greg had a great meeting. "Today," she said, "things are moving forward. We might be business owners soon." I smiled, but it felt forced. "That sounds exciting," I said. She nodded and started making tea. "Do you need help with anything?" I asked gently. She paused. Then she said, "No, not now. We are figuring things out." That was the first moment I felt it. The wall. A soft one, invisible. But it was there. I was being kept at a distance. Not in a cruel way. Just not included. Later that night, Greg came home. He barely looked at me. He thanked me quickly and walked straight into his office with a phone to his ear. On the way home, I drove slowly. The roads were dark, and the headlights of passing cars lit up the trees for just a second at a time. My mind kept circling around, the same thoughts. Why had no one told me about this business idea? Why did I feel like a stranger in their world? At home, I made myself a bowl of soup and sat in the quiet. I turned on the radio, but I did not really hear it. My thoughts were louder than the music. I was confused. Truly. Had I done something wrong? Had I become invisible without even noticing it? The next morning, I went to the cafe like I always do on Saturdays. I sat at my usual table by the window and watched the people walk by. Everyone looked busy. Everyone had somewhere to be. I stirred my tea and thought about my place in the world. Once, I was the center of someone's life. I was needed. I was important. But now, I was just helpful, convenient. Part of me wanted to believe that I was overthinking, that everything was fine, and I was just being sensitive. But another part of me, the part that had lived 6 decades and seen all kinds of human behavior, knew that something was off. I looked down at my hands. They were soft, lined, steady. These hands had raised a child. These hands had built a home, turned pages, wiped tears, cooked meals, written letters. These hands had value. I had value, but I could feel it in my chest. Something was shifting, not just in my family, inside me. I was confused, not about who I was, but about how they saw me now, and I could not stop wondering, if they no longer needed me, then who was I to them? That night, I lit a candle by the window and watched it flicker against the glass. The flame was small, but steady. Just like me, did not have answers yet. But I knew one thing for sure. This feeling was not going away on its own. Greg was always polite to me. That was the word I used in my head. Polite. Not warm. Not cold. Just careful. It had always been like that, even from the beginning. When he first started dating Anna, he brought flowers, asked about my day, and smiled when I spoke. But there was a quiet space between us. A distance. I thought, maybe that was just his way. Maybe he needed time. But years had passed since then, and still, that space never closed. Now, as I sat in the kitchen watching him laugh with Anna about something on his phone, I felt the old doubt return. Did he really see me? Or was I just part of the background, someone to tolerate? Still, I wanted to trust him. That night, Anna had invited me to dinner. Nothing fancy, just the 3 of us and the children. She said they had news. My heart lifted a little. Maybe they were finally ready to share things with me. Maybe I had been too quick to worry. I wore my soft navy dress, the one Anna said made my eyes look brighter. I brought a bottle of sparkling apple juice because Anna did not like wine in the house. When I arrived, the children ran to hug me, and my heart softened instantly. Greg greeted me at the door. He smiled, not wide, but enough. "Thank you for coming, Helen," he said. I nodded. Of course. Dinner was lovely. Roast chicken, green beans, soft rolls. We laughed with the children, shared stories. For a moment, everything felt almost normal. Almost like before. Then Anna cleared her throat. "We wanted to tell you something, Mama." Greg leaned forward, his elbows on the table. "It is about the restaurant. Things are finally moving forward." I felt a flutter in my chest. "That is wonderful. I am happy for you both." He nodded. "We have a partner, a silent investor who believes in our idea." I looked at Anna. Her eyes were bright. "Greg has been working so hard, Mama. He built the business plan himself. I am so proud of him." I turned back to Greg. "May I ask what kind of restaurant it will be?" He sat up straighter. Farm to table. Locally sourced ingredients. A seasonal menu. Upscale, but approachable. I smiled gently. "That sounds very thoughtful, very modern." He nodded. "Yes, that is the goal." There was a silence, not awkward, just long enough to feel like a door had been closed. I waited for more. Perhaps something personal. Maybe a small invitation to be part of the dream. But it did not come. Still, I wanted to believe in him. He was Anna's husband. He was the father of my grandchildren. Maybe he was just tired. Maybe he did not know how to open up to me. Men like him sometimes struggled with that. After dinner, while Anna was upstairs putting the children to bed, I found myself alone with Greg in the living room. He was standing near the bookshelf, flipping through a magazine. I gathered my courage. "Greg," I said, "I just wanted to say, I think it is admirable what you are doing, building something of your own." He glanced up, surprised. Then he gave a small smile. "Thank you." I took a breath. "If there is ever anything I can do to help, I would be glad to." He looked at me for a moment. Then he said, "That is kind of you. But we have it under control." Just like that, the door stayed closed. I nodded, trying not to show my disappointment. "Of course, I only meant—" He cut in gently. "I know, and I appreciate it. But really, we are fine." That night, I lay in bed with the light off, staring at the ceiling. I could still hear the way he said, "We are fine." Not unkind, not sharp, just final. I wanted to trust him. I really did. But trust, I have learned, is not only about words. It is about the space people give you in their world, the room they make in their plans, their decisions, their future. And I could feel it. He was not making space for me. Still, I told myself, he is trying in his own way. Maybe he does not know how to include me. Maybe I need to give it time. Because that is what mothers do, is it not? We hope. We wait. We trust. Even when we are not sure why. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table, sipping tea as dawn's light filled the room. My roses in the garden glowed softly through the window. I turned the pages of my journal and reread the words I had written. I want to trust him, but... My pen hovered. Then I closed the book. I did not know what to write next. At 10 o'clock, my friend Clara called. We have known each other since our daughters were in preschool together. Clara is sharp and kind, and she always speaks her mind. We met weekly for coffee, but this week she suggested a walk in the park. I agreed, hoping the fresh air would clear my head. In the park, the air smelled of lilacs and new grass. We walked slowly along the path, our steps soft on the earth. Clara looked at me with concern. "Elaine," she said, "I have noticed something when I have seen you with Greg lately. He seems distant." I sighed. "Yes, I feel it too, but I want to believe it is nothing." She stopped and turned to face me. Sunlight caught in her silver hair. "Listen to me. Sometimes a person will say they do not need help, but that does not mean they do not, and sometimes a polite person can hide real intentions." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She touched my arm gently. "I mean that family matters can be complicated. I'm not saying Greg plans harm, but I have seen families where the daughter's husband treats the mother-in-law as an obstacle. He might be polite, but polite can mask selfishness." My heart fluttered. I wanted to argue. Greg had never been cruel. He was always polite. But Clara's words settled like stones in my chest. She continued quietly. "You told me he called you retired and said you had time. That suggestion feels dismissive. A person who truly respects you would not imply you are free labor." I nodded, my throat tight. "I know." Clara sighed. "Please, Elaine, do not ignore your instincts. You have always been strong. You raised Anna alone after her father died. You managed your career and cared for others. You do not owe anyone your time or your silence." Her words felt like a warning bell. I thanked her and we resumed walking, but I did not speak. My mind raced with memories. The unnoticed glances, the closed doors, the folder I had glimpsed. Clara was right. I had a choice. I did not have to stay silent. That afternoon, I sat in my living room, the house quiet except for the ticking clock. I stared at the empty chair by the window, the one where Greg often sat scrolling his phone. I pictured him there, polite and reserved, and I felt a strange mix of love and disappointment. Love for my daughter's husband, and disappointment because he had not seen me as a person with boundaries. I thought of Clara's words. Do not ignore your instincts. My instincts told me to speak up, to ask questions, to protect myself. I realized that trust also includes honesty. If I trusted Greg, I could share my concerns. If I doubted him, I could set limits. That evening, Anna called and asked if I could join them for dinner again the next night. I paused before replying. Normally, I would say yes immediately. But now I hesitated. I needed time to prepare my voice, my heart, to decide what I would say if Greg crossed a line again. I answered, I would like that, but could we meet on Saturday instead? My schedule changed. Anna agreed cheerfully. I felt relief. I had bought myself time. Before I hung up, I added softly, Anna, I want to talk to you about something important when we meet. Her voice fluttered, curious and gentle. Of course, Mama. Anything. I smiled, though she could not see me. Thank you. After I placed the phone down, I lit a candle on my side table. The flame danced in the twilight. I felt a small surge of courage. I had heard the warning. I had listened to my friend, and I had begun to listen to myself. Tomorrow, at dinner, I would speak. I would ask questions. I would seek the truth. I did not know how Greg would respond, but I knew I could no longer pretend that everything was fine. Because sometimes, a gentle heart must learn to say, I am listening. Now, speak to me honestly. And I was ready. The morning light came slowly through my bedroom window. I sat on the edge of my bed, holding a warm cup of tea in my hands. The house was quiet. Outside, birds were beginning their morning songs. Their soft melodies made me wish I could feel calm too. But inside me, there was a heaviness. Clara's words from the day before kept echoing in my mind. She had spoken out of care and concern. Still, her warning planted a seed of doubt in my heart. A seed that was now growing quietly, but surely I did not want to believe any of it. I told myself to ignore the feeling. I wanted to believe that everything with Greg was normal. Maybe he was just tired. Maybe his words were not meant to hurt me. Maybe I was reading too much into small things. I tried to push these thoughts away. I moved slowly through my morning routine. As I made oatmeal, I added a little extra cinnamon, the way I used to when Anna was a child. The memory of her small, smiling face made my heart ache softly. Those were simpler times when I felt truly needed and loved. But now, everything felt more complicated. I decided to go for a walk in the neighborhood to clear my mind. The trees were green and full, and children were playing nearby. I greeted a few neighbors and then sat on a bench under a large oak tree. The leaves danced gently in the breeze. I told myself again, do not think too much. It will be all right. But deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, you know something is wrong. I shook my head to silence it. No, I did not want to believe that. Back home, I tried to keep busy. I cleaned the living room, arranged the cushions neatly, and watered the plants. Staying busy helped me forget my worries for a while, but the silence followed me everywhere. In the afternoon, Anna called. Her voice was bright and warm. Mama, thank you so much for all your help lately. Greg says he appreciates everything you do. I smiled quietly into the phone, but inside, I felt uneasy. That is kind of him to say, I replied gently. She continued, he says it is nice to have you around now that you are retired and have more time. The word retired hit me, hard again. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice calm. I try to help whenever I can, Anna. She did not notice my discomfort and went on talking about her day. I listened silently, nodding even though she could not see me. After the call ended, I sat on the sofa and stared at the ceiling. Why did that word bother me so much? Because I had worked hard all my life. I had built a business. I had raised my daughter alone. I had been strong when life needed it. And now, being called just retired felt like I was invisible. Was that how they saw me? As a woman with nothing better to do than to run errands and watch the child? I shook my head firmly. I refused to let those thoughts take root in my mind. Would not become bitter. Not yet. That evening, I poured a glass of water and sat quietly on the porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky pink and orange. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, "It is probably nothing. Just let it go." I forced a small smile. I tried to push the doubt away. I tried to ignore it. But even as the stars began to shine above, I knew doubt did not vanish, simply because I wished it would. It hides, waiting, until it is ready to rise again. That week, I began to notice small changes in Greg's behavior. At first, they seemed harmless, almost like little signs that I was imagining things. But as the days passed, the way he looked at me grew harder to ignore. It was not a kind look. It was not the warm, loving gaze of a family member. Instead, it felt cold, distant, and sometimes even a little sharp, like he was measuring me, judging me, but without saying a word. One evening, we sat together at the dining table after Anna and the children had gone to bed. I was trying to start a simple conversation about the plans for the weekend. Greg nodded and gave short answers, but his eyes kept drifting away from me. Then suddenly, he glanced up and met my eyes. For a moment, his expression was unreadable. Then, almost like a flash, his eyes narrowed just a little before he looked away. Again. I felt a chill run down my spine. I wanted to ask what was wrong, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I smiled softly and changed the subject. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I replayed that moment over and over in my mind. Why did he look at me like that? What was he thinking? Was it disappointment? Resentment? Or something worse? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had been ignoring these small signs for too long. There were other moments, too. When I tried to share a story or a memory, his attention would drift. He would sigh quietly or glance at his phone. Began to feel invisible, like a shadow in the room, rather than a person who mattered. One afternoon, I watched him from the kitchen as he sat at the table with Anna and the children. He laughed easily with them, his face open and relaxed. But whenever I entered the room, the laughter seemed to quiet down, and his eyes darkened for a moment. It hurt more than I expected. I asked myself, have I done something wrong? Has he lost respect for me? But no clear answers came. Sometimes when Greg thought I was not looking, he would glance my way and quickly look down, almost as if he was hiding something. I tried to remind myself that maybe I was just being sensitive. Maybe I was reading too much into simple moments. But the truth was, I could feel the distance growing. The warmth between us was slipping away like sand through my fingers. That change in his gaze made me doubt everything. The trust I had tried, so hard to build. The kindness I hoped we could share. The family I believed we were. One evening, Anna invited me over for dinner. I hoped the gathering would bring some peace. But even there, Greg's looks unsettled me. He barely spoke to me, and when he did, his tone was clipped. I felt like an outsider in my own family. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I realized that the way Greg looked at me said more than any words could. It told a story of distance, of judgment, of walls being built where bridges once stood. And I wondered if I could find a way to break through those walls. Or if I was already too far behind. The weight of Greg's cold look stayed with me like a shadow. I could no longer ignore the quiet distance growing between us. One evening, I made a decision. I needed to know the truth. After dinner, when Anna and the children had gone to bed, I found Greg sitting alone in the living room. The soft glow of the lamp cast gentle shadows on his face. He was reading a book, but his eyes were distant, not really focused on the pages. I took a deep breath and sat down beside him. My heart beat faster than I expected. "Greg," I said quietly, "can we talk?" He looked up at me, surprised. For a moment, he did not say anything. Then he closed the book and set it on the table. "Of course, Helen. What is on your mind?" I looked at him, searching for something in his eyes. "I feel like something is wrong between us. You have been distant lately, and the way you look at me, it is different. It hurts, Greg." He sighed deeply and ran his hand through his hair. "Helen, I did not mean to hurt you." "Then why?" I asked gently. "Why do you look at me like I am not important? Like I am invisible?" Greg's face hardened slightly. "It is not like that. But it feels like it," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I want to understand. Please be honest with me." He was silent for a long moment. Then he looked away, staring at the floor. "I guess I have been frustrated," he admitted finally. "Things have been hard lately." "What things?" I asked. "The business, the money, the pressure," he said. "And sometimes I feel like you do not take us seriously, like you think you are above it all because you are retired now." His words hit me like a cold wave. I did not expect him to say that. "Greg, I do not think that way," I replied quickly. "I am proud of what you and Anna have done. I want to support you both." He shook his head. "It does not feel like that. When I ask for help, you say, 'Yes,' but sometimes I wonder if you really believe in us." I swallowed hard. "I do believe in you. I always have." He looked back at me, his eyes softer now. "Maybe I have been unfair. Maybe I let my stress get the best of me. I want us to have a good relationship, Greg, not one filled with tension and cold looks." He nodded slowly. "I want that too." There was a pause between us, the kind of silence that carries so much meaning. "Thank you for talking to me," I said softly. "I am sorry if I made you feel small or unimportant." "You are important, Greg," I said. "To me, and to our family." He reached out and took my hand. It was a small gesture, but it meant a great deal. "I will try to do better," he promised. "I will try too." That night, as I lay in bed, I felt a mix of emotions: relief, sadness, hope. I knew this conversation was only the beginning. There were still many things to work through, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a small light in the darkness, a hope that things could change, that the distance between us could grow smaller, and that trust could begin to heal. I understood now that relationships are never perfect. They require honesty, patience, and courage. I was ready to take that first step, to face the truth, no matter how hard it might be, because ignoring the silence had only made it louder, and now I was ready to listen. After the conversation with Greg, I thought the heavy weight inside me would lift. I hoped that finally, speaking the truth aloud would bring some peace. But instead, my mind became a restless storm. I could not stop thinking. At night, when the house was silent and the world outside was dark, my thoughts kept turning over and over like a broken record. Every word Greg said, every look he gave me in the past weeks, every moment of distance. I replayed them all in my mind. Why had he felt frustrated? Was it only about money and stress? Or was there something deeper? something he was not ready to say. I tried to understand what I could do better. Was I really as supportive as I thought? Had I somehow made him feel small or unimportant? These questions haunted me. Sleep became difficult. I would lie awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I counted the minutes until morning came, but even then, the quiet moments were filled with worry. During the day, my focus slipped. Simple tasks became harder. I burned the toast once and forgot to water the plants another time. My thoughts were far away, lost in a maze of doubt and fear. I found myself watching Greg more closely. Sometimes he looked tired and stressed, but other times his face was hard and distant. I wondered what was really going on inside his mind. I wanted to reach out again, to ask more questions, but I was afraid. Afraid of what I might hear. Afraid of making things worse. I tried to distract myself by calling Anna, or spending time with the grandchildren. Their laughter brought brief moments of joy, but the cloud of worry never fully left me. One afternoon I sat by the window, watching the rain fall softly outside. The drops ran down the glass, just like the tears I tried to hold back inside. Asked myself, am I being too sensitive? Or is this real? The answer was not clear. I remembered the warning Clara had given me days before. She had seen the signs before I did, but I had tried to ignore it. Now I could not. The more I thought, the more I felt alone. Even surrounded by family, I was trapped in my own mind. I did not want to be a burden. I did not want to be the woman who complained or questioned too much. But the silence inside me was growing louder. I felt a quiet pain in my chest, a mix of fear and sadness. Could the family I loved so much be drifting away? Could the son-in-law I tried to support really see me as just a retiree? These thoughts made my heart ache. Yet, in the midst of the pain, I also found a strange strength. If I could not stop thinking about these things, then maybe I could use this energy to find answers. Maybe I could turn these worries into action. Maybe it was time to stop hiding my feelings and start being honest with myself and others. I promised myself that I would not let these thoughts trap me forever. I would find a way to heal, to forgive, to rebuild. But for now, I had to live with the restless mind and the quiet ache in my heart, and wait for the next step on this difficult journey. Days passed, and the restless thoughts inside me did not ease. Instead, a quiet pain settled deep within my chest. It was not loud or sharp, but steady and heavy, like a soft rain that never stopped falling. I found myself sitting alone more often. The house, usually full of warmth and laughter, felt colder. Even the sunlight seemed weaker through the windows. One afternoon, I went to the small garden behind the house. The flowers were blooming, bright and full of life, but I could not feel their beauty. I sat on the bench, watching the petals move gently in the breeze. The sky was gray, and clouds gathered slowly, promising rain. I felt a heaviness matching the weather outside. Tears came quietly, without sound. I did not try to stop them. I let them fall. I thought about Greg, about Anna, about my family. How had things become so difficult? I remembered the moments when we had all been happy. The dinners filled with laughter, the children running around, the quiet nights when Greg and I would share stories from the past. Now those memories felt distant, like they belonged to another life. The pain was not just about Greg's cold looks or the worries in his eyes. It was deeper. It was about feeling invisible, like my presence did not matter anymore, like the years I had lived, the love I had given, were all forgotten. That evening, as the rain began to fall outside, I sat by the window and watched the droplets race down the glass. Each drop seemed like a small sadness, sliding silently away. I felt so alone. The house was quiet. No voices, no footsteps. Just the sound of rain and my own thoughts. I closed my eyes and let the tears come again. It was strange to feel such pain without any words to explain it. I did not want to burden anyone with my sadness. I did not want to seem weak. But inside, the pain was real. I remembered the times when I had been strong, when I faced challenges at work, when I raised my children, when I helped friends in need. Now, I wondered where that strength had gone. Was it buried under disappointment and loneliness? Or was it still inside me, waiting to be found? I decided to try to find it. Slowly, day by day. The quiet pain was teaching me something important. It was telling me that I needed to feel these emotions fully, to face the sadness before I could heal. I was not alone in this feeling. Many people go through times when they feel forgotten or hurt, and it is okay to feel pain. That night, I wrote in my journal for the first time in weeks. I wrote about my sadness, about my fears, about the cold distance growing between Greg and me. Writing helped me understand my feelings better. It was like speaking to a trusted friend. I realized that I needed to be patient with myself. Healing takes time. It is not a straight path. Sometimes, it moves forward. Sometimes it feels like 2 steps back. But the important thing is to keep moving. I knew that I could not change everything overnight, but I could start small. A smile here, a kind word there, a moment of courage to ask questions. The pain was quiet, but it was also a sign that I still cared deeply, that I was not ready to give up, that I still had hope. As the rain continued to fall outside, I felt a small warmth return inside me. It was faint, but real. A light in the darkness. I was still here, still fighting, still hoping, and I would not stop. The quiet pain inside me had settled like a shadow, but it was growing heavier each day. I knew I could no longer live with the silence between Greg and me. The distance, the cold looks, the unspoken tension. They were all pulling me apart. Needed an answer. One evening, after dinner, when the house was calm and Anna was busy with the children, I found Greg sitting in the living room. The soft light from the lamp made his face look tired, but his eyes were sharp. I could see the walls he had built around himself. I took a deep breath. "Greg," I said firmly but gently, "we cannot keep living like this. I need to know what is really going on." He looked up, surprised by my sudden seriousness. "Helen, what do you mean?" "I mean us, our relationship, the way things have changed. You have been distant, cold. You look at me like I am nothing. I need to understand why." Greg's face tightened. He avoided my eyes. "I have tried to talk to you before," I continued, "but it feels like you do not want to be honest." There was a long silence. Finally, he looked at me, his voice low. "It is complicated, Helen. Things are not easy for me right now." "What things?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "The business is struggling. Money is tight. I am under a lot of pressure." I nodded slowly. "I know that, Greg. But why does that make you treat me like I am a problem?" He sighed and looked away. "It is not you. It is me. I feel like I am failing. And sometimes I take my anger out on the people closest to me. I do not want you to feel that way alone," I said softly. "We are family. We should face these problems together." Greg's eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw the man I had once trusted deeply. "I want that too," he said quietly. but I cannot help if you keep pushing me away, I said honestly. I need honesty, Greg. I need trust. He was silent, again. Then, after a deep breath, he said, There is something else. My heart skipped a beat. What is it? He hesitated. I borrowed money from a friend to keep the restaurant going. I did not tell Anna. I did not want her to worry. I felt a sudden shock. Why would you hide that from your wife? Because I was afraid she would not understand. I was afraid it would cause more problems. The silence that followed was heavy with truth. I understand your fear, I said. But secrets only make things worse. Greg looked at me, tired and ashamed. You are right. I want to help, I said, gently. But I need to know everything. No more secrets. He nodded slowly. I promise. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this painful honesty was the beginning of healing. Maybe we could rebuild the trust that had been broken. But I also knew the road ahead would not be easy. There were still many questions, many fears. Could I forgive the secrets? Could Greg forgive himself? Could our family survive this storm? That night, I lay awake thinking about everything Greg had said. I thought about the quiet pain I had carried alone. I thought about the strength I needed to find, and I made a choice. Would not run from the truth. I would face it, no matter how hard it was, because sometimes the only way to heal is to feel the pain fully, and then, slowly, let it go. The days after my conversation with Greg were filled with restless waiting. I wanted to believe that honesty would bring us closer, but deep inside, I knew that the truth we had not spoken yet was still hiding in the shadows. One morning, Anna came to me with a worried look on her face. She said softly, Mom, I think you need to know something. My heart beat faster. I nodded, waiting for her to continue. Anna took a deep breath and said, Greg has been struggling with a debt from the restaurant. It is bigger than we thought. He has not told you because he was ashamed. I felt a sharp pain in my chest. The weight of the secret pressed down on me. How much? I asked quietly. Anna hesitated. A large amount. Enough to threaten everything we have. The room felt suddenly colder. My mind raced to understand the full meaning. All the cold looks, the distance, the hidden worries. They were pieces of a puzzle I had not been able to see before. Greg was not just stressed, he was desperate. The burden he carried was crushing him. That afternoon, I sat alone in the garden, the sunlight warm, but my thoughts heavy. I realized something important. I had been blaming Greg for his coldness, for his distance, but he was fighting a battle I did not know about. He had not meant to push me away. He was afraid. Fear had built a wall between us. I understood now that trust was broken, not because of me, but because of the fear that held him tight. I decided to speak with Greg again. This time, I approached with gentle care, not anger or hurt. Greg, I said, I understand now. You are scared, and you are carrying too much alone. He looked surprised. I did not want you to see me like this. I see you, I said simply, and I want to help. We talked for hours. Greg shared his fears about failure, about losing everything he had worked for. He spoke about the pressure to be strong and how heavy that burden felt. I listened without judgment, and I told him about my pain, the loneliness I felt when he pulled away. For the first time in a long while, we connected deeply. It was not a perfect moment. There were tears and moments of silence, but there was also hope. I knew the road ahead would be hard. The debt was real, and the risks were high. But now we would face it together. I promised myself to be patient, to support him without losing myself. I also knew I had to set boundaries. Love does not mean giving up who you are. I needed to be strong for both of us. That evening, I sat down with Anna and shared what Greg and I had talked about. We planned how to manage the debt carefully, how to seek advice, and how to protect the family's future. The truth was painful, but it was also freeing. I felt a small light inside me begin to grow. It was the light of understanding, the light of forgiveness, the light of hope. From that moment on, I knew I would not be silent anymore. I would speak my truth. I would demand honesty and respect, and I would fight for the family I loved. This understanding gave me strength I had forgotten I had. I finally understood that real strength is not hiding, pain, or pretending everything is perfect. Real strength is facing the truth, no matter how hard it is, and choosing to move forward with courage. I was ready to face the future, not as a quiet, invisible woman, but as someone who knew her worth. Someone who could forgive, heal, and rebuild. Someone who would never be just a retiree again. The moment I decided to walk away was not easy. It was filled with pain and confusion, but I knew it was necessary. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is to step back when the love we gave is not enough to heal the wounds around us. After the long conversation with Greg, I thought things would change. I hoped honesty would bring us closer. But as days passed, the distance between us did not disappear. Instead, it grew like a slow poison. The silence was louder than ever. I remember one evening clearly. Greg was sitting on the couch, his face tired and worried, but cold. Anna and the children were upstairs, and the house was quiet except for the ticking of the clock. I sat down across from him and took a deep breath. "Greg," I said softly, "I need some time alone." He looked up, surprised. "Time alone? Helen, what do you mean?" "I mean I need space to think. To understand who I am in all of this," I answered. "I cannot keep living like this, wondering if I am enough or if I am just a problem." Greg did not say anything. He just nodded slowly. That night I packed a small bag with clothes and some books. I told Anna where I was going, and she understood. She did not ask many questions because she knew I needed this. Sometimes, even those closest to us can see when our heart is breaking. I drove to a small cabin near the lake where I had spent some quiet weekends years ago. The place was peaceful, surrounded by tall trees and soft sounds of nature. It was the perfect place to breathe and be alone with my thoughts. The first few days were the hardest. I felt lonely, but not the kind of loneliness that comes from being alone. It was the loneliness of feeling invisible to the people you love most. I cried many times, sometimes silently, sometimes with a broken voice that no one heard. But with each day, I found a little more strength. I started walking by the lake, watching the water ripple under the soft sunlight. I sat on the porch with a cup of tea and listened to the birds singing. Slowly, the heavy cloud of sadness began to lift. I thought about the past, the happy memories and the painful ones. I remembered how life used to be simpler and how my heart was full of hope and trust. I realized that I had lost myself in the middle of trying to keep everyone else happy. That was the hardest lesson. I had been so busy being a mother, a wife, a grandmother, and a friend that I forgot to be Helen, the woman who loved herself, who dreamed, who believed she deserved kindness and respect. Walking away did not mean I stopped loving Greg or my family. It meant I loved myself enough to set a boundary. It meant I understood that sometimes love is not enough if it is one-sided or hidden behind lies and silence. The days turned into weeks. I called Anna often, and she told me about the children and the small events at home. Greg called once, his voice quiet and unsure. We spoke carefully, trying to find words that would not hurt more. I knew this time apart was a chance for both of us, a chance to heal, to think, to grow. I also knew that walking away was not an end, but a beginning of something new, whether that was healing together or healing alone. One evening, sitting on the porch and watching the sun set in fiery orange and purple, I felt a strange calmness inside me. I was still broken in many ways, but I was also stronger. I was learning to trust myself again. I whispered to the wind, "I am not lost. I am finding my way." This journey was not about escaping pain, but about facing it with courage. I knew I would return to my family, but I would come back different, wiser, braver, and ready to demand the respect I deserved. Walking away was my way of saying, I will not be invisible anymore. I was ready to reclaim my voice and my life, because sometimes walking away is the first step to coming home, to yourself. Even though I walked away, the pain did not leave me. It stayed, like a quiet shadow following me everywhere I went. I thought that time alone in the cabin would heal everything, but some hurts run deeper than any place can fix. Every morning, I woke up with a heavy feeling in my chest. I tried to smile for Anna and the children when I called, but inside, I felt broken. It was as if my heart was still waiting for something, or someone, to make the hurt go away. I remember one day sitting by the lake, watching the water move slowly. The peaceful scene outside was the opposite of what I felt inside. I wanted to cry, but the tears did not come. Instead, a quiet numbness filled me, and it scared me even more. I asked myself again and again, why does this hurt so much? Why can I not feel better? I realized that pain does not disappear quickly. It changes shape, but stays with us. It can hide behind a smile or sleep in the silence of a room. It is patient, waiting for moments when we feel weak. The hardest part was missing the past, the good times before everything became difficult. I missed the laughter in our home, the simple talks with Greg, and the way my family used to feel close. I missed feeling safe. Sometimes I blamed myself. I thought, maybe I should have tried harder. Maybe I was not enough. These thoughts were like sharp needles, and I had to remind myself every day that they were lies. No one deserves to feel like they are not enough. One evening, I looked at an old photo of our family. Everyone was smiling, and the sun was shining. I touched the picture softly and whispered, I miss this. I want to find this again. But deep down, I knew things could never go back to exactly how they were. People change, situations change, pain changes us. This made me feel very lonely. I was surrounded by love and family, yet I felt alone in my sadness. I wanted to tell someone, but sometimes words are too heavy to share. Instead, I wrote in my journal. Writing helped me give my pain a voice. It was like talking to a friend who would never judge or leave. On those pages, I cried, shouted, and hoped. I wrote about my fears. The fear of being forgotten, the fear of losing my family, and the fear of being weak. I wrote about my dreams of respect, peace, and happiness. The pain stayed, but I was learning to live with it. I was learning that it was okay to be sad, to feel broken, and to take time to heal. I found small moments of comfort too. A warm cup of tea, a phone call with Anna, the sound of birds in the morning. These small things reminded me that life still had beauty, even when it was hard. One day I sat quietly in the cabin and looked at my reflection in the window. The woman I saw was tired but still there, still standing. I promised myself that I would not let the pain control my life. I would not let it close my heart. I would carry it, but I would also carry hope. Because healing is not a straight path. It is slow, full of ups and downs. The pain stayed, but it was no longer a chain. It was a reminder that I had survived and that I was still fighting. And that gave me strength to face tomorrow. Sometimes, when the house is quiet and the evening sky turns soft shades of pink and blue, memories come to me like gentle waves. I miss the past, the days when life felt simpler, when laughter filled every room, and when love seemed endless. These moments visit me quietly, and they bring both comfort and sadness. I remember the early years with Greg and Anna. Our home was full of warmth. The children's voices echoed through the halls, and the kitchen was always busy with cooking and chatter. We were a team, working through life's challenges together. Back then, I believed that nothing could break us. Those were times when I felt important, needed, and loved. I was not just a retiree or an invisible presence. I was their mother, their wife, their friend. I was the woman who cared for everyone, who held the family together with small acts of love. I miss those moments more than words can say. Sometimes I find myself closing my eyes, and I can almost hear Anna's laughter as she runs through the garden or Greg calling out to the children. From the porch, I remember the smell of fresh bread in the morning, the sound of the radio playing old songs, and the way the sunlight danced through the windows. Those memories feel like a warm blanket, but they also remind me of what is lost. The distance that has grown between us now feels heavy and real. I miss feeling close to them, and I miss feeling safe in their love. It hurts to realize that some things may never return to how they were. People change, and life changes with them. I see now that the past is a beautiful place, but it is only a place I can visit in my heart. I often ask myself if I could go back. Would I do things differently? Would I speak more clearly, love more boldly, or hold on tighter? But I also know that the past is not a place for regrets. It is a foundation that has shaped who I am today. The past gave me strength to face the present. I miss the past, but I am learning to live in the now. Some days, the sadness is heavy, and the past feels like a bright light that makes the present look dark. Other days, those memories bring hope, reminding me that love is possible and that joy can return. I have started to understand that missing the past is part of healing. It means I cared deeply. It means that my heart is still open, still able to feel. Anna once told me, "Mom, it is okay to miss the old days, but do not forget to live the new ones." Her words comfort me because they remind me that life is always moving forward, even when it is hard. I am trying to carry the best parts of the past with me, kindness, patience, and love, and use them to build a new future. I miss the past, but I am also learning to create new memories. I spend more time with Anna and the children when I can, and I listen carefully to their stories and dreams. I see that they are growing and changing, just like me. Our family is not the same, but it is still ours. I miss the past, but I do not want to be stuck there. I want to live fully in the moments I have now. This is not easy. It takes time and courage. But each day, I am learning to balance the love for what was with the hope for what can be. I believe that one day, we will find a way to heal together. Until then, I hold the past gently in my heart and look forward with quiet strength. Because missing the past is not a weakness. It is a part of being human. And it reminds me that I have loved deeply and that I still have much to give. So I will keep moving forward, carrying my memories like a light to guide me through the darker days. I miss the past, but I'm still here, and that is something to be thankful for. There was a time when I thought I could carry all my pain alone. I believed that talking about my feelings would only make things worse. I kept my worries and sadness locked inside, hidden behind quiet smiles and polite words. But the truth is, the heart needs someone to listen. One afternoon, I found myself sitting with Sarah, my oldest and closest friend. We had known each other for over 30 years. She was the kind of person who did not judge, who could hear the silence between the words, and who always knew when something was wrong. I was nervous at first. My voice felt tight, and I did not know where to begin. But Sarah waited patiently, giving me space to gather my thoughts. Finally, I said, "I feel lost, Sarah. Like a part of me is broken, and I do not know how to fix it." She reached out and held my hand gently. "It is okay to feel that way," she said softly. "You are going through something very hard. You do not have to carry this alone." For the first time in weeks, I let the tears come. I talked about Greg's words, the distance with Anna, and the coldness I felt in my own home. I told her about the nights when sleep would not come, and the heavy silence that wrapped around me like a blanket. Sarah listened without interruption. She did not try to fix anything or offer quick answers. Instead, she gave me her presence. That simple act of being there made a difference I cannot explain. We talked for hours. I shared fears I had never spoken aloud before. I told her how much I missed the family I used to know, and how lonely I felt in the present. Sarah reminded me that healing takes time. She said, "It is okay to be gentle with yourself. You are stronger than you think, but even the strongest, people need help sometimes." Her words gave me a small sense of peace. I began to see that asking for support was not a sign of weakness, but a step toward healing. After that day, I found myself reaching out more. I spoke to Anna honestly, sharing some of my feelings in a way I had never done before. She listened, and for a moment, it felt like we were connected again. Talking to Sarah also gave me courage to face my pain without running away from it. I started to accept that feeling sad and confused was part of the journey. I allowed myself to rest on the days when my heart was heavy, knowing that tomorrow might be better. Our conversations became a lifeline. Sarah shared her own stories of struggle and hope. She showed me that I was not alone, and that many people have walked this difficult path before me. Through these talks, I slowly began to rebuild trust, not only in others, but in myself. I realized I could be kind to my heart and still keep moving forward. One day, Sarah said something that stayed with me. "You do not have to fix everything today. Just take one small step, one breath, one moment at a time." I held on to those words during the hardest days. When I felt like giving up, I reminded myself to keep taking those small steps. Talking to a friend opened a door for me. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I did not have to carry pain alone. I learned that healing is not a lonely road. It is made softer by the kindness of others. That day with Sarah was a turning point. It helped me remember that love and friendship can be a light even in the darkest times. I am grateful for that gentle, healing conversation. It reminded me that I am worthy of care and understanding, and it gave me hope that one day I will smile again. Not because the pain is gone, but because I am stronger and more whole. This is the power of talking to a friend. It is the power of connection. I am learning that sharing my heart does not make me weak. It makes me human. And for that, I am thankful. Saying goodbye is never easy. It is like closing a door that once led to a room full of memories, some beautiful, some painful. But sometimes, saying goodbye is the only way to find peace and begin again. I never imagined I would have to say goodbye to Greg in the way I did. Not because I stopped loving him, but because the love we shared no longer felt like a safe place. His words, his actions, and the distance between us had created a wall too high to climb. The moment I made the decision, I felt a quiet strength inside me that I had not noticed before. It was not loud or angry. It was calm and steady, like the steady pulse of my own heart, reminding me that I deserved respect and kindness. I remember the day clearly. The sun was soft and warm through the window, but my chest felt heavy. I sat down with Greg at the kitchen table, the same table where we had shared so many meals, laughs, and dreams. "I need to say something important," I began, my voice trembling but firm. He looked up, surprised and a little guarded. "Think it is time for me to say goodbye," I said, and the words hung in the air like a fragile glass. Greg did not say much at first. He looked away, his face unreadable. For a moment, I wondered if he understood what I meant. "This is not easy. For me," I continued. "I love you. I always will. But I cannot stay in a place where I feel invisible, hurt, and unvalued. I have tried to hold on, but I am tired. I need to find myself again." Tears filled my eyes, but I did not turn away. I waited for his response. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "I did not realize how much I hurt you," he said quietly. "Maybe I have taken you for granted." His words did not change my decision. I knew that real change takes more than words. It takes action, commitment, and respect. Saying goodbye meant more than ending our relationship. It meant letting go of the pain and the hope that things would be different. It meant choosing myself for the first time in a long time. I packed a small bag that evening. I took only what I needed: clothes, a few books, and a photo of the family, when we were happy. The photo reminded me that there was love once, and love could exist again. The night was quiet when I left. I closed the door gently behind me and walked away, feeling the cool air on my face and the weight of a new beginning. In the days that followed, the pain was real and deep. I missed Greg, the home we shared, and the life I thought we would have. But with the pain came clarity. I saw that I was stronger than I thought, and that I could live without the hurt. Saying goodbye gave me permission to heal. It gave me space to breathe, and to think about who I wanted to be. I called Sarah often during those first weeks. She reminded me to be patient with myself and to take one day at a time. Slowly, I began to feel the first sparks of hope. I found joy in simple things: the smell of coffee in the morning, the softness of a book in my hands, and the kindness of a stranger's smile. I started to believe that goodbye was not the end. It was a door to a new life. I learned that sometimes love means letting go, not because you do not care, but because you care enough to protect your heart. Saying goodbye was an act of courage. It was an act of love for myself. Now, when I think about that day, I do not feel sadness or regret. I feel pride. I am proud that I chose to honor my feelings and to seek the happiness I deserve. I know that saying goodbye is a part of life's journey. It is a step toward freedom, peace, and a new beginning. And I am ready to walk through that new door with hope in my heart. The first days after saying goodbye were the hardest. The silence of the house felt loud. It was the kind of silence that pressed on my chest and made my breath shallow. I was alone now, truly alone. And the weight of that reality settled in, like a heavy fog. I never thought I would feel this way. I had imagined loneliness before, but this was different. It was not just being by myself. It was the absence of the person I had shared my life with, the absence of the family I once knew. It was a quiet emptiness that seemed to stretch into every corner of my world. At first, I tried to fill the silence. I turned on the radio, put on a TV show, or kept busy with chores around the house. But no matter what I did, the quiet kept coming back. It was like a shadow I could not escape. Some nights, I found myself sitting by the window, watching the stars. They seemed so distant yet so constant, and I wondered if they could see me too, if they could see the woman who was trying to find her way again. I thought about the past a lot during those nights. I thought about the moments of joy and the moments of pain. I thought about the times I felt strong and the times I felt weak. And slowly, I began to understand something important. Being alone did not mean I was weak. It did not mean I was lost or broken. It meant I had space to heal, to grow, and to discover who I really was without the noise of others. I started to listen to myself more. I listened to my thoughts, my feelings, and my dreams. I realized that I had spent so many years caring for everyone else that I had forgotten how to care for myself. Alone, I could finally hear my own voice. It was soft at first, like a whisper, but it grew stronger each day. I began to take small steps toward self-care. I made sure to eat well, even when I did not feel like it. I went for walks in the park, feeling the fresh air and the warmth of the sun on my face. I wrote in my journal, pouring out my thoughts and feelings on the pages. These simple acts became my anchors in the storm. They reminded me that I was still here, still alive, and still worthy of love and happiness. Sometimes I felt afraid of what the future held, afraid of being alone forever. But I learned to face those fears, to welcome them without letting them control me. I also found comfort in small routines. Making a cup of tea in the morning, tending to my small garden, listening to music that lifted my spirits. These moments of peace helped me build a new foundation. A foundation built on my own strength and hope. One afternoon, as I sat by the window with a book, I realized that the house no longer felt empty. It felt like home again. Not because someone else was there, but because I had made it mine. I was learning to enjoy my own company. I was learning to find joy in the little things. I was learning that being alone was not the end. It was a beginning. There were days when tears came without warning, and I allowed them to fall. I cried for the past, for the dreams that did not come true, and for the love that changed. But each time, I also felt a little lighter, a little stronger. Being alone gave me time to reflect. I thought about my life, my choices, and the woman I wanted to become. I dreamed of a future where I was not defined by others' opinions or expectations. In that quiet space, I found a new kind of freedom. The freedom to be myself, to listen to my heart, and to take control of my own story. I realized that I am not just a woman who has lost something. I am a woman who has found herself, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Hopeful that this new chapter would bring healing, growth, and peace. Being alone now is not a punishment. It is a gift, a chance to rebuild, to rediscover, and to shine. I am alone now, but I am not lonely. I am learning to love myself, and that is the most important journey of all. Change is a quiet thing. It does not always announce itself with noise or fanfare. Sometimes it creeps in slowly, like the soft light of dawn that reveals the world in a new way. That is how I felt about myself now. I was not the same woman I had been before. The pain I had carried, the heartbreak, and the loneliness had changed me. But they had not broken me. Instead, they had shaped me into someone stronger, wiser, and more aware of her own worth. I looked in the mirror one morning and saw a face that told a story. There were lines etched by time and tears, but there was also a calmness in my eyes. It was a quiet strength that I had not noticed before. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who sought approval, who gave too much, and who hid her true feelings to keep peace. I understood now that I had lost myself in that effort. But I was not lost anymore. Every difficult moment had taught me something important. I learned that my feelings mattered, that I deserved respect and kindness, that saying no was not selfish, it was necessary. I began to notice the small changes inside me. I was more patient with myself. I no longer rushed to fix everything or to please others at my own expense. I allowed myself to rest and to feel without judgment. One afternoon, I took a walk in the park. The sun was warm on my skin, and the air smelled of fresh grass and blooming flowers. I watched children playing and couples holding hands, and I felt a deep sense of peace. I realized that I was becoming the person I needed, the person who could love herself first, who could set boundaries, and who could face the future with hope instead of fear. The relationships in my life began to shift as well. I found myself more honest and open, but also careful about who I let close. I valued quality over quantity. A few genuine friendships felt better than many shallow ones. I started to speak my truth more clearly. When someone said something that hurt, I told them how I felt. When I needed help, I asked for it. These were small steps, but they made a big difference. I also began to explore new interests. I signed up for a painting class, something I had always wanted to do but never dared. The colors on the canvas felt like a fresh start, a way to express emotions I could not put into words. In those moments of creation, I felt free. Free from the past and the pain. Free to be myself without fear or shame. I thought about Greg too. I knew that he was still a part of my story, but he was no longer the center. My life was no longer defined by his opinions or actions. I forgave him in my heart. Not because I wanted to forget what happened, but because I wanted to release the anger that held me back. Forgiveness was for me, not for him. With each passing day, I felt more whole. The woman I saw in the mirror was not perfect, but she was real. She was brave and kind, wounded and healing. I knew that I still had challenges ahead. Healing is not a straight path. There are ups and downs, moments of doubt, and moments of strength. But I was ready to face them with an open heart. I found comfort in my own company. I learned to enjoy quiet evenings with a book or a cup of tea. I relished the peace that came from knowing I could be happy alone. This journey was not just about survival. It was about transformation, about becoming the best version of myself. I thought about the future and felt a flicker of excitement. For the first time in a long time, I could imagine new dreams and possibilities. Dreams that belonged to me and me alone. I was not the same woman who had said goodbye. I was better, stronger, freer, ready to write the next chapter of my life with courage and hope. This was my new beginning. There was a moment, one quiet afternoon, when I noticed something different inside me. A small light flickering in the darkness I had lived through. It was subtle at first, easy to miss, but it was real. It was hope. After the pain, the silence, and the loneliness, hope felt like a delicate flower pushing through cracked concrete. It was fragile, but it was stubborn. It refused to be crushed by the weight of my past. I remember sitting by the window, the sunlight warm on my skin, and feeling that tiny spark inside. It was a feeling I had not allowed myself to have for a long time. I had been so focused on surviving, on getting through each day, that I had forgotten how to dream. That day, the small light was a whisper that said, "You can heal. You can grow. You can be happy again." It was not a loud or confident voice. It was quiet and soft, but it gave me something I needed. A reason to keep going. I looked around my home, seeing things I had ignored before. The plants by the windowsill, the pictures on the walls, the little chair where I liked to sit and read. These things reminded me that life was still here, waiting for me. I thought about all the moments that had led me to this point. The tears, the heartbreak, the nights, spent wondering if I would ever feel whole again. And now, here was this small light, a beginning. Hope gave me the courage to imagine a future that was not defined by loss or pain. It made me think about what I wanted, not what I had lost. I realized that hope is a choice. Every day, I could choose to see that small light, to nurture it, and to believe in it. Some days the light would flicker and fade. Doubts and fears would rush in. But I learned to hold on, to breathe deeply, and to remind myself that light, no matter how small, was still there. I started to make plans, small and simple ones. I thought about things I had once dreamed of doing, traveling to a quiet seaside town, learning to cook new recipes, reconnecting with old friends. These thoughts brought a smile to my face. They were like seeds planted in the soil of my heart, waiting to grow. I shared some of my hopes with a close friend. She listened without judgment and told me that it was okay to feel hopeful, even after pain. Her words gave me strength. I knew I was not alone in this journey. Hope also helped me forgive myself. I had blamed myself for many things, mistakes, missed chances, and the ways I had let others treat me. But now, I saw that I was human, and humans make mistakes. What mattered was learning from them and moving forward. With hope came patience. I realized that healing is not quick or easy. It takes time, and sometimes that time feels too long. But the small light inside told me that it was worth waiting for. I began to notice small joys in everyday life. A warm cup of tea, a kind word from a neighbor, the sound of birds in the morning. These moments became reminders that life still held beauty and kindness. Hope gave me permission to dream again. I began to imagine a life filled with purpose and happiness, built on the foundation of my own strength and self-love. That small light was not just about my future. It was about the present, too. It was about finding peace and meaning in the here and now. I understood that hope is a gift I could give myself every day. A light to guide me through the darkest moments, and a spark to ignite new beginnings. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but I was no longer afraid. With hope shining softly inside me, I was ready to face whatever came next. This small light was the beginning of my new story, one filled with courage, growth, and the promise of better days. And in that moment, I knew I was not alone anymore. Starting over is never easy. It feels like standing at the edge of a vast ocean, unsure whether to dive in or step back. For me, that moment came quietly, but with great meaning. I realized I had to begin again, not just to survive, but to live, fully and truly. After so many days filled with doubt and pain, the choice to start fresh felt like a breath of fresh air. It was a chance to rebuild my life on my own terms, with hope as my guide. The first step was simple but powerful. I began to take care of myself, not just in the small ways like eating better or getting more rest, but in deeper ways, nurturing my spirit and honoring my feelings. I created new routines that helped me find peace. Each morning I would wake early, make a warm cup of tea, and sit by the window. Watching the world wake up became a quiet meditation. The gentle light, the soft sounds of birds. It reminded me that every day was a new chance. I also started to write. At first, it was just a few words in a journal, but soon the pages filled with thoughts, dreams, and feelings. Writing helped me understand myself better. It was like talking to a close friend who listened without judgment. These new habits became the foundation of my healing. They gave me strength and hope when things felt heavy. I found joy in small things too. A walk in the park, a phone call with an old friend, a good book. I learned to appreciate the present moment instead of worrying about the past or future. The process of beginning again was not without challenges. Old fears and doubts would sometimes return. I had moments when I questioned whether I was strong enough to continue, but I reminded myself that healing is not a straight line. It is a path with curves and bumps, with days of light and days of shadow. I also began to open my heart slowly to new connections. I reconnected with friends I had lost touch with, and I met new people who brought fresh energy into my life. One day, I signed up for a cooking class. Cooking had always been a passion of mine, but I had stopped because of the stress in my family. Returning to the kitchen was like returning to myself. In that class, I met others who shared stories of struggle and hope. We supported each other. It felt good to be part of a community again. I also took small steps to explore the world beyond my home. A weekend trip to a nearby town, a visit to a museum, a quiet picnic by the lake. These experiences reminded me that life still held beauty and adventure. Each new day was an opportunity to grow, to heal, and to find joy. Most importantly, I learned to be gentle with myself. I stopped blaming myself for things beyond my control. I embraced my imperfections and allowed myself to feel all emotions: anger, sadness, happiness, and love. Beginning again was not about forgetting the past. It was about carrying my story with me, but no longer letting it define me. I understood that my worth was not tied to what others thought or said. I was enough just as I was. This new beginning was a gift I gave myself. It was a choice to live fully, to embrace my strength, and to follow my own path. I smiled more. I laughed again. I dreamed bigger. And with each step forward, I grew more certain that I was on the right road. This was my journey of renewal. The moment when I stopped surviving and started truly living. I began again. And it was the most beautiful decision I ever made. Just as I was beginning to find peace within myself, he tried to come back. His return was not loud or dramatic. It was quiet, almost hesitant, like someone knocking gently on a door that had been closed for a long time. But for me, it felt like a storm arriving after a calm. I was not sure if I was ready. Part of me wanted to believe in second chances, but another part was guarded and tired. I had been hurt before, deeply. Could I risk opening my heart again? His messages started with simple texts. "How are you? Can we talk?" I read each one carefully, feeling a mix of emotions. There was a sadness in his words, a longing that seemed real. But I also remembered the pain, the broken promises. When we finally met, the room was heavy with unspoken words. He looked older, perhaps more tired than before. He spoke softly, apologizing for the things he had done wrong. He said he missed the person I was, the woman he had once loved. I listened, but I also watched him closely. His eyes told stories he did not say aloud. I could see regret, but I also saw uncertainty. Was this truly a change, or just words to bring me back? I felt my heart stirring. Hope and fear danced inside me, each trying to take control. I wanted to believe that people can change, that love can heal wounds. But I also knew that hope without proof can be dangerous. He asked for forgiveness, for a chance to rebuild what we had lost. He said he was ready to be different, to be better. His voice was full of emotion, but I remained silent for a moment, searching my own feelings. I asked myself many questions. Did I trust him? Was I strong enough to face possible disappointment again? Could I protect my heart if things went wrong? He did not push. He waited patiently, respecting my space. That showed me he understood the weight of what I was deciding. Over the next days, I reflected deeply. I talked to close friends and thought about my own growth. I remembered the pain, but I also remembered the small light of hope I had found inside myself. I did not want to lose that. I realized that this was a test, not just of him, but of me. Could I stand firm in my self-worth? Could I protect my peace? I decided to take things slowly. I told him that trust takes time to rebuild. I needed to see actions, not just hear words. He agreed, and we started with small meetings, quiet talks over coffee, walks in the park, sharing simple moments without pressure. With each meeting, I watched for changes. Did he listen to me? Did he respect my feelings? Did he show patience and kindness? Sometimes he slipped. Old habits appeared in small ways, forgetting important things, speaking sharply when frustrated. Those moments hurt, reminding me why I had stepped away. But sometimes he surprised me. He was thoughtful, gentle, and seemed genuinely interested in making amends. Those moments gave me hope, but I kept my heart guarded. I realized that healing relationships are not about magic or quick fixes. They are about daily choices, choosing respect, honesty, and care over pride and hurt. Throughout this time, I stayed connected to my own strength. I did not lose sight of my worth. I knew that no matter what happened, I deserved to be treated with love and respect. I also understood that choosing to open the door again did not mean forgetting the past. It meant learning from it, setting boundaries, and protecting my peace. There were days when I felt confused. My heart wanted to forgive fully, but my mind warned me to be cautious. That tension was hard to live with, but it also helped me grow stronger. I decided to keep my focus on myself, on my healing. I would not lose myself again, trying to save someone else. He tried to come back, and I listened. But I did not give him my heart blindly. I gave him a chance to prove that he had changed, and I gave myself the chance to decide what was best for me. This time, I was in control. I was no longer the same woman who had felt powerless and hurt. I was a woman who knew her value and would not settle for less than she deserved. The future was still uncertain, but I was ready to face it with courage and wisdom. He tried to come back, and I met him with open eyes and a strong heart. When he tried to come back, I was not the same woman he had once known. Time had changed me in ways that he could not see at first glance. I was stronger, wiser, and more aware of my own worth. I carried scars from the past, yes, but those scars were proof of my survival, my growth, and my courage to keep going. Before, I might have forgiven too quickly or ignored warning signs. Now, I understood the importance of setting clear boundaries and protecting my peace. I knew that love was not just about giving, it was also about receiving respect, honesty, and kindness. During our renewed conversations, I found myself speaking with a calm confidence that surprised me. I no longer feared silence or confrontation. Instead, I used my voice to express my feelings clearly and to ask for what I deserved. This was new. It felt liberating. When he spoke about the past or made promises for the future, I listened carefully, but I also paid attention to his actions. Words could be easy to say, but actions revealed true intentions. I saw that he was trying, but I also noticed when he faltered. I accepted that no one is perfect, but I would not accept excuses for disrespect. Sometimes I felt a flicker of old emotions, hope, love, or even fear. But I reminded myself that these feelings did not control me anymore. I was in charge of my heart. I chose when to open it and when to protect it. I also noticed how much I had grown emotionally. I was no longer quick to anger or sadness. I allowed myself to feel deeply, but I did not let emotions cloud my judgment. I practiced patience, both with him and with myself. This change surprised him, I think. He had expected the same person who would accept him without question. Instead, he met a woman who asked questions, demanded respect, and cared for herself first. That was the biggest difference. I realized that being different meant I could make better choices for my life. I did not have to repeat past mistakes or accept treatment that made me feel small. I was learning to love myself fully, with all my imperfections and strengths. At times, I felt lonely on this new path. It was easier to be weak or to depend on others, but I knew that true strength came from within. I reminded myself daily that I was enough, just as I was. My friends noticed the change too. They said I seemed calmer and happier. They told me I looked more confident. Those words warmed my heart because they meant I was healing. This transformation was not sudden. It took months of reflection, self-care, and sometimes tears. But it was real and lasting. I also began to see that my story was not just about pain or betrayal. It was about resilience, growth, and hope. And I was not a victim of my circumstances. I was the author of my future. This new understanding gave me courage to face whatever came next. I could forgive without forgetting. I could open my heart without losing myself. I could love without fear. It was different now. And that difference was my greatest gift. As I moved forward, I embraced this new self with pride and kindness. I knew that no matter what happened with him or anyone else, I had found my true strength. This part of my journey was about owning my story and choosing the life I wanted. It was about becoming the woman I had always needed to be. I was different now, and I was ready to live fully, bravely, and with an open heart. For many years, I had put others first. My family, my husband, my son-in-law. I believed that their happiness mattered more than mine. I thought that by sacrificing my own needs, I was showing love and strength. But slowly, I realized this was not true love. It was a form of forgetting myself. Choosing myself was not easy. It was the hardest decision I had ever made. It felt like standing alone on the edge of a deep forest, unsure what lay beyond. But I knew it was necessary. I needed to heal. I needed to find peace. When he tried to come back into my life, I had a choice. I could open the door and let old patterns repeat, or I could close it firmly and walk away. I chose the latter, not out of anger or hate, but out of respect for myself. Choosing myself meant setting clear boundaries. It meant saying no when I wanted to say yes just to please others. It meant listening to my heart and trusting my instincts. Even when they were scary, I told him honestly that I was not ready to reopen that chapter of my life. I explained that healing takes time, and that I needed to focus on my own growth first. He seemed disappointed, but he understood. I saw respect in his eyes for the first time in a long while. I started spending more time alone, not because I was lonely, but because I wanted to connect with myself. I learned to enjoy quiet mornings, with a cup of tea and a book. I took long walks and noticed the small things, the birds singing, the sunlight through the leaves. These simple moments reminded me that life could be beautiful, even after pain. I began to practice self-care in ways I had never done before. I ate healthy meals, went to yoga classes, and allowed myself to rest without guilt. I journaled my feelings, writing down both my fears and my hopes. This helped me see my own journey clearly. Choosing myself also meant forgiving myself. For years, I blamed myself for things that were not my fault. I carried guilt like a heavy bag on my shoulders. But I learned that forgiveness is a gift I give to myself, not to forget mistakes, but to free my heart from pain. As I grew stronger, I noticed changes in my relationships. I started to speak up when I felt hurt. I asked for what I needed, instead of hiding my feelings. This was new and sometimes uncomfortable, but it brought a new kind of respect from others. My family noticed the difference too. They could see. I was not the quiet, invisible woman they once ignored. I was someone who had found her voice and was not afraid to use it. Choosing myself was not selfish. It was necessary. When I took care of my own heart, I became more loving and present for those around me. I was not perfect, but I was whole. There were moments when I doubted myself. I wondered if I was making the right choice, if I was being too proud or too harsh. But then I remembered the pain I had felt when I put others before me and lost myself in the process. That memory gave me strength to continue. I also learned to be patient with myself. Growth is not a straight line. There were good days and bad days, moments of hope, and moments of sadness. But each day, I chose myself again. This choice opened new doors. I started exploring hobbies I had left behind: painting, gardening, and writing. These activities brought joy and meaning to my life. I made new friends who respected and supported me. I joined community groups where I could share my experiences and learn from others. I felt connected in a way I had not felt for years. Choosing myself was a quiet revolution inside me. It changed how I saw the world and how I saw myself. I was no longer defined by the opinions of others or the mistakes of the past. I was my own person, strong and free. As I look back now, I am proud of that choice. It was the turning point in my life. It taught me that self-love is not a luxury, but a necessity. Without it, we cannot truly live. I choose myself every day. It is a promise I made to my heart, a promise to protect it, to honor it, and to nurture it. This is my story of choosing myself. It is a story of courage, healing, and hope. And I share it with you, dear listener, because I believe you too deserve to choose yourself. No matter what your past holds, your future can be filled with love, starting with the love you give yourself. Every morning now felt like a fresh start. I woke up with a sense of calm that I had not known for many years. The sunlight coming through my window seemed softer, warmer, as if it was welcoming me into a new chapter of my life. I smiled, not because I had forgotten the pain or the struggles, but because I had survived them. I was here, standing strong, ready to live fully. The air smelled clean and fresh. I opened the window and let it fill the room. Breathing deeply, I felt alive, in a way I had forgotten was possible. The past was still there, like a shadow behind me, but it no longer controlled me. I had moved forward. This new day was more than just a date on the calendar. It was a symbol of hope, of healing, and of growth. I looked around my home, and I saw small signs of my new life. A vase of fresh flowers on the kitchen table. A notebook by my favorite chair filled with my thoughts and dreams. Photos of friends who had supported me when I felt weak. I took my time with breakfast. No rush, no distractions, just simple moments. Toast with honey, a cup of tea, the quiet sounds of morning. These were my gifts to myself now. I savored them, slowly, appreciating the peace they brought. As I sipped my tea, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The pain of betrayal, the loneliness of feeling invisible, the confusion and fear that once clouded my mind. I did not try to forget those feelings. Instead, I held them gently, like old friends who had taught me important lessons. I realized that pain and joy could live side by side. One did not erase the other. In fact, they made life richer and more meaningful. Without the hard times, I would not have discovered my own strength. That morning, I decided to take a walk in the park near my home. The trees were tall and green, and the birds sang softly. Children played nearby, their laughter light and free. Watching them, I felt a quiet happiness in my heart. Life was moving forward, and so was I. Walking slowly, I noticed how much more. I paid attention to the small details around me, the way sunlight filtered through the leaves, the cool breeze on my face, the gentle rustle of grass under my feet. These simple things had become treasures in my new life. At the park bench, I sat down and closed my eyes. I allowed myself to feel the moment fully. The warmth of the sun, the sounds of nature, the steady beating of my own heart. It was grounding, comforting. I thought about the people I had loved and lost. I forgave them, and I forgave myself. Forgiveness was not easy, but it was necessary. It freed me from carrying heavy burdens that no longer served me. I thought about my son-in-law, who had once dismissed me as just a retiree. He had not seen my true value then, but now I knew my worth, and I would not let anyone make me feel small again. The day continued with quiet joy. I spent time reading a book that inspired me. I called a friend and shared laughter and stories. I cooked a meal for myself, enjoying the process and the flavors. In the evening, as the sky turned soft pink and purple, I sat by the window and watched the sunset. It was a beautiful ending to a beautiful day. I felt grateful for my health, for my freedom, for the new strength I had found inside. She smiled, not because she forgot, but because she survived. That smile was not just on my lips. It was in my heart, shining quietly but clearly. It told a story of resilience and hope. This new day was mine. It belonged to a woman who had been broken but was now whole, a woman who had faced darkness but had found her own light. As I prepared for sleep, I promised myself to greet every new day with the same hope and courage. Life was still full of challenges, but I was ready. Ready to live, ready to love, ready to be free. This was my new beginning, and I was thankful for every moment of it. Gratitude was not something I had practiced often before. In the past, my mind was full of worries, pain, and anger. I focused on what was missing or broken in my life. But now, things had changed. I found myself looking at the world through a softer lens, noticing the good and appreciating the small blessings. Saying thank you felt like a new kind of power, a way to honor what I had, not just what I wanted. It was a way to heal my heart and open it wider. I began by thanking myself. It might sound strange, but I realized that I had been through a lot, and I deserved kindness and recognition. I thanked myself for the courage to face difficult truths. I thanked myself for the patience to heal slowly. I thanked myself for choosing to keep moving forward even when it was hard. This simple act of self-gratitude changed how I saw my journey. Instead of feeling like a victim, I started to feel like a survivor. Instead of feeling weak, I felt stronger. Saying thank you to myself was like planting seeds of love inside that would grow into hope and peace. I also began to thank the people who had helped me along the way. There was my dear friend Clara, who had listened without judgment when I needed to cry. She never tried to fix my problems. She just held space for my feelings. I sent her a letter, telling her how much her support had meant to me. Writing those words was healing, both for her and for me. Then, I thought about my family, the ones who had hurt me, and the ones who had cared but did not know how to help. I chose to send a quiet thank you to them as well, not because I forgot the pain, but because I wanted to let go of bitterness. Holding on to anger only kept me tied to the past. Gratitude was a key to unlocking my freedom. I realized that even the hardest experiences had taught me something valuable. Betrayal had shown me the importance of self-respect. Loneliness had taught me how to be my own friend. These lessons were gifts in disguise, and for that, I was grateful. Every morning, I made it a habit to say thank you. I thanked the sun for rising, the air for being fresh, and my body for carrying me through the day. These small acknowledgments helped me stay present and calm. One day, I visited a local charity where volunteers helped people in need. I wanted to give back in a way that felt meaningful. When I thanked the volunteers for their kindness and hard work, their smiles were warm and genuine. I saw how gratitude could build bridges between people, creating connection and hope. Expressing thanks also helped me forgive myself more deeply. I had made mistakes, but I learned that forgiving myself was an act of love, not weakness. Saying thank you to my own heart was a way of honoring my growth and giving myself permission to move on. As I practiced gratitude, I noticed my thoughts changed. Negative thoughts lost their power. I became more patient with myself and others. I began to notice beauty in everyday moments that I had once overlooked. A child's laugh, the sound of rain, a kind word from a stranger. Gratitude became a light in my life, guiding me through dark times. It did not erase sadness or challenges, but it gave me strength to face them with grace. One evening I wrote in my journal, "Thank you for this new day. Thank you for the chance to heal. Thank you for the people who care. Thank you for the strength inside me." Writing these words made my heart feel full. I shared my gratitude with others too. When I met new people, I told them what I appreciated about them. This simple practice created new friendships and deepened existing ones. Most importantly, saying thank you reminded me that I was not alone. Life was a journey we all shared, with moments of joy and sorrow. Gratitude connected me to that shared humanity. Looking back, I saw how far I had come. From a place of pain and confusion, I had moved to a place of hope and love. Saying thank you was a powerful part of that transformation. To anyone listening, I want to say this. Take time to say thank you. To yourself, to those who help you, and even to the hard moments that teach you lessons. Gratitude is a quiet strength that can change your life. As I close this chapter of my story, I hold gratitude in my heart. It is a light that will continue to guide me wherever life takes me next. Forgiveness is often spoken of as something we give to others. Yet, I discovered that the hardest forgiveness is the one we must give to ourselves. For years, I carried a heavy weight of guilt and regret. I blamed myself for what happened between my family and me. I thought that if I had done something differently, things might have been better. But slowly, I realized that this blame was like a chain that kept me tied to the past. The moment I began to forgive myself, something inside me started to shift. It was not an easy process. Forgiveness is not forgetting or excusing mistakes. It is a conscious decision to let go of anger, guilt, and shame. It means accepting that I am human, imperfect, but worthy of love. I started by sitting quietly in my living room. I closed my eyes and took deep breaths. I thought about all the moments when I had felt weak, scared, or lost. I pictured those moments like stones I was holding in my hands. They were heavy and painful. With every breath, I imagined myself gently putting down those stones. I told myself, "I forgive you. You did your best." At first, these words felt strange and even uncomfortable, but I repeated them again and again. Slowly, my heart softened. I also wrote a letter to myself. I wrote about my pain, my mistakes, and my hopes. I told myself that it was okay to be imperfect. I reminded myself that growth comes from struggle. Writing this letter was a way to speak the kindness I had denied myself for too long. When I shared my feelings with Clara, my dear friend, she said something that stayed with me. She said, "Helen, forgiving yourself is not just about the past. It is about freeing your future." I understood then that forgiveness was a gift I could give myself, one that would allow me to live fully and freely. Sometimes, I still caught myself slipping into old patterns of self-blame. But now, I was more aware. When those thoughts came, I stopped and gently reminded myself that I was healing. I practiced speaking kindly to myself, as I would to a dear friend. Forgiving myself helped me to see my story differently. I stopped being my own harsh judge and became my own supporter. I learned to celebrate small victories and accept setbacks with patience. This forgiveness did not erase the difficult memories. It did not change the fact that my son-in-law had said hurtful things or that my family had misunderstood me, but it changed how I carried those memories. Instead of pain that weighed me down, they became part of my history, a history that had shaped me, but did not define me. In forgiving myself, I found a new kind of freedom. I was no longer a prisoner to my mistakes or regrets. I was free to love myself, to dream again, and to embrace life with open arms. I also learned that self-forgiveness is a daily practice. It is a quiet promise to treat myself with kindness, patience, and respect. It is a commitment to believe in my worth, no matter what happens. If you are listening and struggling with guilt or self-judgment, I want you to know that you are not alone. Forgiveness may take time, and that is okay. Be gentle with yourself. Speak kind words, breathe deeply, and remember that you deserve peace. As I continued on my journey, forgiving myself became a foundation for all other healing. It allowed me to rebuild my confidence and trust in my own strength. It opened my heart to love, both for myself and for others. This chapter of my story is a reminder that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of courage. It is an act of bravery to face our faults and still choose love. I carry this lesson with me every day. Forgiving myself was the key to unlocking the next part of my life, a life filled with hope, joy, and possibility. Freedom is a feeling I had almost forgotten. For many years, I felt trapped by my own fears, doubts, and the heavy weight of family expectations. But now, after so much struggle and healing, I could say with all my heart, I am free. This freedom did not come from money, success, or approval from others. It came from inside me. It was a quiet, powerful feeling that grew each day. It was the choice to live life on my own terms, without being controlled by fear or pain. One morning, I woke early and decided to take a walk barefoot in my garden. The cool grass felt soft and fresh under my feet. It was a simple act, but it felt like a symbol of my new freedom. Walking barefoot, I was connected to the earth, to nature, and to myself in a way I had not been before. I took deep breaths and felt the morning sun warm my skin. The light seemed to shine not only on the garden, but also inside my heart. I was alive. I was present. I was free. As I walked, I remembered the days when I felt small and invisible, the times when my son-in-law's words made me doubt my worth, the moments when I felt lonely and hurt. All those feelings were still there, but they no longer had power over me. Freedom meant that I did not have to carry those burdens alone. It meant I could choose how to respond to pain. I could choose kindness instead of anger, hope instead of despair. Later that day, I put on some music and danced alone in my living room. The music was soft and gentle, but it moved my body in a way that felt joyful and freeing. I laughed at myself as I tried to follow the rhythm. I was not concerned about how I looked or if I was perfect. I was simply enjoying the moment. Dancing like that was more than fun. It was a celebration of life and a statement of independence. It was my way of saying, I am here, and I am free to be myself. I thought about how many people live trapped by others' opinions or by their own fears. I was lucky to have found the courage to break free. It was not easy. Freedom required me to face my pain and make difficult choices. It meant letting go of old relationships and old ways of thinking. But freedom was worth every step. I started to make small changes in my life that reflected my new freedom. I traveled to places I had always wanted to see. I tried new hobbies and met new people. Each experience was a way to discover parts of myself that I had forgotten. I also spent time in quiet reflection. Freedom did not mean I ignored my past or my responsibilities. It meant I accepted them without being controlled by them. I wrote in my journal about my feelings, my hopes, and my fears. Writing helped me understand myself better. It was a tool to keep my freedom alive. One afternoon, I went to a park and sat under a large tree. I watched children playing and families laughing. I thought about the future and what it might hold for me. Freedom was not about escaping life. It was about embracing it fully. With all its challenges and joys, I also learned that freedom came with responsibility. I was responsible for my happiness and my choices. No one else could give me that. I had to protect my freedom like a precious gift. Sometimes old fears tried to return. Doubts whispered that I was too old or too weak to change. But I reminded myself of how far I had come. I was stronger than those fears. Freedom gave me a new sense of peace. It was a calm confidence that I could face whatever came my way. It was a deep knowing that I was enough just as I am. To anyone listening, I want to say this. Freedom is possible for you too. It starts with small steps. Choosing kindness, letting go of fear, and believing in yourself. You may not be able to change everything at once, but every choice you make toward freedom brings you closer to a life that feels true and full. I am free now. Free to live, to love, to dream, and to be me. And that freedom is the greatest gift I have ever received. For a long time, I was lost in a fog of doubt and confusion. I did not know who I really was beneath the layers of pain and misunderstanding. But now, after all the challenges and the long journey, I can say with quiet confidence, I know who I am. Knowing myself is not about having all the answers or being perfect. It is about understanding my own heart and accepting all parts of me, the good and the difficult. It means I no longer need others to define my worth or my place in the world. I see now that I am a woman who has faced many storms. I have been hurt, yes, but I have also found strength I did not know I had. I am a woman who loves deeply and who forgives. Not only others, but also herself. There was a time when I tried too hard to please everyone around me. I wanted to be seen as a good mother, a helpful friend, and a strong wife. But in trying to meet everyone's expectations, I lost sight of myself. I did not listen to my own needs or dreams. Now, I listen carefully to my own voice. It is softer than the noise around me, but it is clear. It tells me what feels right and what does not. It reminds me that my feelings matter and that my happiness is important. Knowing myself also means accepting my limits. I am not perfect, and I do not have to be. I make mistakes, I have fears, and sometimes I feel weak. But these are part of being human. They do not make me less valuable. One thing I learned is that my story is mine alone. It is shaped by my experiences, my choices, and my feelings. No one else can live it for me or tell me how to feel about it. I remember a quiet evening when I sat by the window and watched the sunset. The sky was painted with colors I had never seen before. It was a beautiful reminder that life changes and grows, just like me. At that moment, I felt a deep sense of peace. I was no longer fighting against who I was. I was embracing it fully, with all its complexity. I also began to see my relationships in a new light. I understood that not all people will understand or accept the real me, and that is okay. What matters most is being true to myself. This truth gave me the courage to set boundaries with those who hurt or dismissed me. I learned to protect my energy and to spend time with people who support and respect me. Knowing who I am has changed how I see the future. Instead of fear or doubt, I feel curiosity and hope. I want to explore new opportunities, try new things, and continue growing. I have dreams again, small and large, that belong to me and no one else. I want to travel, learn new skills, and build connections that bring joy and meaning. At times, the journey to self-knowledge has been difficult. It required honesty and courage. There were moments when I felt lost or afraid, but I always reminded myself that this process is part of life. I found comfort in quiet moments of reflection. I wrote down my thoughts and feelings in a journal. Writing helped me understand my emotions and see my progress. I also talked to close friends who listened without judgment. Their support helped me feel less alone and more understood. If you are listening now and feeling unsure about who you are, please remember that it is okay not to have all the answers. Self-discovery is a lifelong journey. Be patient and kind to yourself. Try to notice your feelings and what they tell you. Pay attention to what makes you happy and what drains your energy. These clues will guide you toward your true self. You do not have to rush or compare yourself to others. Your path is unique, and every step you take is valuable. I want you to know that knowing who you are brings a deep sense of freedom and peace. It gives you strength to face challenges and joy to celebrate your successes. For me, this realization has been the most important gift of all. It has helped me heal, grow, and live a life that feels honest and fulfilling. I am proud of who I am, my past, my present, and the person I am becoming. And I am excited to continue this journey, one day at a time. If you are listening to my story, I want to speak to you from my heart. This journey I have shared is not just about me. It is about all of us who have faced pain, doubt, and challenges, and who have found a way to grow and heal. My message to you is simple but powerful. You are stronger than you think, and your life matters deeply. Life is not easy. There will be moments when you feel hurt, alone, or invisible. You may face people who do not understand you, or even those who try to bring you down. I know this pain well. I have been there, feeling rejected by my own family, doubting my worth, and wondering if I could ever find peace. But I want you to remember something very important. No matter what others say or do, your value is not defined by their opinions. You are more than their words or actions. You have a unique story, a unique heart, and a unique strength that no one else can take away from you. When my son-in-law called me just a retiree, it was a painful moment. It was not only about the words, but about feeling dismissed and underestimated. I felt small. But that moment also sparked a fire inside me, a fire to show myself that I am worth so much more, that I have power even when others do not see it. You may face similar moments. Maybe someone has told you that you are not important or that you cannot achieve your dreams. Please do not believe those lies. Instead, listen to the quiet voice inside you, the voice that knows your true worth. That voice is your guide. It will help you find your strength and your path. I learned to trust myself again, slowly but surely. I learned that it is okay to say no when something does not feel right. It is okay to set boundaries and to protect your heart. Your feelings matter. Your needs matter. Healing is not a straight path. There will be days when you feel strong and hopeful, and days when the old pain returns. That is normal. Be patient with yourself. Each day is a new chance to choose kindness toward yourself and to move forward, even a little. You do not have to do this alone. Find friends or people who listen and support you. Talk to them about your feelings. Sometimes sharing your story can lighten the burden and bring new hope. Remember to take care of yourself. Small acts of self-love can make a big difference. Whether it is a walk in the fresh air writing your thoughts, or simply taking a quiet moment for yourself. These acts help you heal and grow. Do not be afraid to dream again. No matter your age or your past, you have the right to hope and to build a life that brings you joy. Your dreams are worth chasing. Most importantly, forgive yourself for the times you felt weak or lost. Forgiveness is not about forgetting what happened or making excuses for others. It is about freeing yourself from the weight of guilt and regret. When you forgive yourself, you open the door to peace and happiness. I want you to know that freedom and strength come from within. You already have everything you need to rise above your struggles. It may take time to find this power, but it is inside you, waiting to shine. As you listen to my story, I hope you find a little piece of yourself in it. Maybe you see your own struggles reflected in my journey. Maybe you feel a spark of hope for your own future. If so, hold on to that hope tightly. Let it grow inside you like a small light in the dark. That light will guide you through difficult times and remind you that you are never truly alone. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. I believe in your strength. I believe in your courage. Take care of yourself. Be gentle with your heart. And remember, you are worthy of love, happiness, and a life full of meaning. Before we finish, please take a moment to breathe deeply and feel the strength that is already inside you. You are enough. You are powerful. And you are free to be exactly who you are. If this story has touched your heart, please consider subscribing so we can share more journeys of hope and healing together. Wherever you are, know that you are seen and you are loved. This is not the end. It is just the beginning of your own beautiful story.